The senses, Prani, are higher than dull matter. Ahu, they, the sages, say, Indriyabhya, than the senses. Param, higher. Manaha, the mind. Manasa, than the mind. Tu para, indeed. Higher. Buddhi, intelligence. Buddhe, than intelligence. Yaha, who. Parataha, still higher. Tu, but Saha, he, the soul. The senses are said to be superior to inert matter. The mind is superior to the senses. The intelligence is superior to the mind, and he, the soul, is superior even to the intelligence. It is inappropriate to try to first control the mind and intelligence in the initial stages. To do so is impossible. Nevertheless, to explain the process, Sri Bhagavan is speaking this verse beginning with Indriyani Parani. He is saying the senses are more powerful than a courageous warrior who has conquered the 10 directions. Indeed, they are superior to him, for even he cannot control his senses. The mind is more powerful than the senses, and it is superior to them, for it remains active even during dreams when the senses are dissolved. Intelligence that is endowed with realization soul or Atma is more powerful than the intelligence and superior to it, for it continues to exist even when the intelligence is dissolved. It is this glorious soul alone that can conquer lust. This Jivatma, which is more powerful than everything else, can definitely control lust. Once he has controlled the senses, mind, and intelligence, you should not doubt this. Sarartha Varshini Prakashika Vritti. In the Shruti, it is also said, Indriyebhya parahi artha arthabhyascha param manaha. Manasastu para buddhir atma mahan para. Kathopanishad 1.3.10. Certainly the senses are superior to the gross body, and the mind is higher than the senses. Higher than the mind is intelligence, and the great one, the soul, is the highest of all. So see here that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur quotes Krishna as saying, I am explaining to you in brief that your real identity is that of a soul. A jiva, you have accidentally become bound by inert matter. So now you identify yourself with the senses, mind and intelligence. This is delusion and it is created by ignorance. The senses are superior to and more subtle than inert matter. The mind is superior to and more subtle than the senses, and the intelligence is superior to and more subtle than the mind. And the soul or the self is superior even to the intelligence. Verse 43. So, this is the Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj explanation, and Srila Srila Gurudev explanation. So, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj explanation, we'll see. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu para buddhiryo buddhe parasastu isa. Indriyani, senses, parani, superior. Ahu are said. Indriyebhya, more than the senses. Param, superior. Mana, the mind. Manasa, more than the mind. Tu, also. Para, superior. Buddhi, intelligence. Yaha, who, buddhe, more than the intelligence. Parataha, superior. Tu, but sa, he. The working senses are superior to dull matter, and mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the bodily functions, as described here, ultimately end in the Supreme Soul. Bodily action means that the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does not as it does during dreaming. But above the mind, there is a determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all the subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind, and the senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a passage in which it is said that the objects of sense gratification are superior to the senses and the mind is superior to the sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance of the senses becoming engaged in other ways. The mental attitude has already been explained. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense objects, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of senses. One has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness, by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still it is strengthened by association with Krishna and Krishna consciousness. There is ever chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. Evam buddhe param buddhva संस्थभ्यामानम् atmana jahi shatrum mahavao kamarupam durasadam. Evam thus buddhe to the intelligence, param superior, buddhva knowing, samstabhya by studying, atmanam the mind, atmana by deliberate intelligence, jahi conquer, shatrum enemy, mahabhaho, O mighty armed, kama rupam in the form of lust, dura sadam formidable. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directed to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness as the ultimate aim. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overlording and sense gratification are the greatest enemies of the conditioned soul. But by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind. By steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thus, end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. This is the third chapter is finished. And एवं बुद्धे परम बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यानामात्मना जहि शत्रु महाबाहो काम रूपम दुरासदम. Evam, in this way, buddhe, then intelligence, param, superior, the soul, buddhva, having understood, samstabhya, by fully stabilizing, atmanam, the mind, atmana, through determined intelligence, jahi, destroy, shatrum, enemy, mahabaho, O mighty armed one, Arjuna, amarupam, in the form of lust, durasadam, is difficult to vanquish. O mighty armed Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, control the mind with pure intelligence that relates to the true self, and destroy this formidable enemy in the form of lust. Bhagavad Shri Bhagavan is concluding this chapter with this verse beginning with Eva. Knowing the living entity or Jiva to be superior to the intelligence and distinct from all mundane designations, and making yourself steady by knowledge of your true self, destroy this lust, which is very difficult to conquer. In this chapter, the practice of selfless action offered to Bhagavan, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and the merits of knowledge, Jnana, which is its aim, have been described. Thus ends the Bhavanuvad of Sri Vishwanath Thakur's Sarartha Tika, the commentary of that given pleasure to the devotees, and is accepted by all saintly persons on the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sarartha Prakashika Vritti. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes Sri Krishna as saying, in this way, with the help of transcendental knowledge of the soul, know yourself to be superior to all mundane identification with the senses, body, mind, and intelligence, aprakrit tattva, and also know yourself to be my eternal servant. Thus become steady by the grace of my transcendental knowledge potency, the Chit Shakti, and gradually destroy this formidable lust. Thus ends the Sarartha Varshini Prakashika Vritti by Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj on the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 4, Jnana Yoga. Yoga through transcendental knowledge. Verse 1. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Imam Vivasvati Yogam Proktavan Aham Abhyam Vivaswan Manave Praham Mano Ishva Kave Bravi Shri Bhagwan Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Abhyam Vivaswan Manave Praham Mano Ishva Kave Bravi. Shri Bhagwan Vacha, Shri Bhagwan said, Imam this Vivasvate unto the sun god. Yogam, science of yoga. Proktavan, instructed. Aham, I, Avyam, imperishable. Vivaswan, Vivaswan, the sun god. Manave, unto Manu, the father of mankind. Praha, told it. Manu, Ishwakave, unto Ishwaku. Abravit spoke. Shri Bhagavan said, I instructed this eternal science of yoga in yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan, who instructed to Manu, Manu then instructed to Ishwaku. Sarada Varshini. In the fourth chapter, Shri Bhagavan explains the reason for his appearance, the eternal nature of his birth and activities, and the superiority of transcendental knowledge, Jnana, in the form of the study of the Vedas. The path of spiritual advancement through transcendental knowledge, Jnana Yoga, which is the objective of selflessly performing one's prescribed duties, Nishkam Karma, is glorified in this verse, beginning with Imam as well as in the next chapter. Sadhartha Vachli Prakashita Vritti. In every Manvanta, an incarnation of Manu appears. The initial Manvantar being Swayambhu Manu. The first person to receive instructions on Jnana Yoga in the current Vaivasvata Manvantar was Manu's father Vivaswan, the sun god. In this verse, Hare Krishna. In this verse, Shri Bhagavan introduces the concept of a sampradaya, a bona fide succession of self-realized spiritual masters. Without this unbroken spiritual lineage, neither Jnana Yoga, Jnana Tattva nor Bhakti Tattva can manifest in the pure form in the material world. This disciplic succession is known as Amnaya Parampara. Only by this disciplic line are the gravity, antiquity, and significance of the subject specifically proven. It is seen that in India, even the common people have faith in the ancient disciplic lineage and are devoted to it. That Guru Parampara or disciplic succession, which bestows complete knowledge of Bhagavad Tattva, is called Amnaya or Sampradaya. Mantras that are not received from a bona fide Sampradaya are fruitless. In this present age of Kali, there are four Vaishnava Sampradayas. Number one, Sri or Lakshmi Sampradaya. Number two, Brahma Sampradaya. Number three, Rudra Sampradaya. And number four is Sanaka Sampradaya, or the four sons of Brahma, known as the Kumaras. Shri Krishna is the original source of all the four Sampradayas. Only from Sri Krishna does real knowledge of the Supreme Person flow into this material world. Dharmam to Sakshat Bhagavad Pranita. Real religion comes directly from Sri Bhagavan, Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.19. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna first instructed this knowledge to Vivaswan, the sun god, who then instructed to Manu. Manu in turn gave these divine instructions to Ishwa. This is a system of disciplic succession or Guru Parampara. It is an ancient and reliable tradition that ensures the continuation of the Sampradaya or lineage. by divine knowledge has been preserved to the present day. Whenever this line is broken, Sri Bhagavan again arranges for it to manifest in the material world. Exalted pure devotees are Mahabhagavat, such as Sri Vishwanath Thakur, Sri Baldi Vidyabhushan, and others in the Guru Parampara of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, realize this divine knowledge and instructed the common people on it through their realized commentaries. Unless a person is properly situated in this disciplined succession, he can never understand the real import of Bhagavad Gita, even if he is highly qualified in terms of material knowledge. It is important to protect oneself from self-made commentators. Otherwise, realization of the true meaning of Bhagavad Gita will not be possible. Although milk is pure and nourishing, when it has been touched by the leaf of a snake, it acts like poison. Similarly, topics of Sri Hari are simply purifying for the material world. But when they are recited by non-devotees such as impersonalists or those who consider the body to be the self, hearing such topics becomes the cause of one's destruction. In this connection, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also said, Mayavadi Bala Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash. If one hears the commentary of the impersonalist, everything is destroyed. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 6.169. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanam Vivaswan Manave Praha Manavishwa Kave Bravi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Imam, this Vivasvate unto the Sun God, Yogam, the science of one's relationship to the Supreme, Proktavan, instructed, Aham, I, Avayam, imperishable. Vivaswan, the sun god's name. Manave, unto the father of the mankind, of the name Devaswata. Prabhu Praha told Manuhu, the father of mankind, Ishwakave, unto King Ishwaku, Abravit said, the blessed Lord said, I instructed the imperishable science. The blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god. Vivaswan and Vivaswan instructed to the Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu then in turn instructed it to Ishwaku. Here in we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order, the king of all planets. The science is especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand it in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive hands of all these states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizen by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness. Understood it that in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the executive heads of all states and all planets obliged obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens of education, religion, culture, devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path. Utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life in this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets in the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Chakshare Savita Sakala Grahanam, Raja Samasta Sarumurti Ashesha Teja, Yasyadnya Brahmati Samvrta Kala Chakru, Govinda Mari Purusham Tamam Bhajami. Let me worship Lord Brahma, says the Supreme Personality of. Let me worship Lord Brahma, said the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of all of the planets, and the sun god at present, the name Vivaswan, rules the sun planet, which is controlled by all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise. Not the Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholars, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In Mahabharata Shanti Parva 3.48.51 and 52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta Yugadau cha tato vivaswan manave dadau manushya loka bhriti artham sutaye ksha kave dadau ishvakuna cha katito vyakpa lokan avastita. In the beginning of the Treta Yuga millennium, the science of relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswata Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Vishwaku. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Vishwaku, the king of this earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramchandra appeared, and forefather of the therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Mahabharata. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years, 4,32,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapar Yuga, 8 lakh, 8 lakh years. And before that, there was Treta Yuga, 1 crore, 200, 1 crore 2 lakh years. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaj Ishwaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305 million years, of which 120.4 million years have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god, Vivaswan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120 million 400 years ago, and in human society it has been extant for 2 million years. It was respoken by the Lord again to Arjuna because of 5,000 years ago. This is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita. According to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna, it was spoken to the sun god. Verse 1, because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his knowledge is apaurushaya or superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciple succession, and it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god, and the sun god spoke to his own son Manu, and the Manu spoke to his own son Ishwa. एवं परंपरा प्राप्त इमं राजर्षयो विदु सकाल में महता योगो नष्टा परम तप. Evam in this way, parampara by disciplic succession, praptam received imam this Raja Vishaya, the saintly things, Viduhu understood, saw that Kalena by time, here in this world, Mahata by the great influence, Yoga, the process for connecting with the Supreme Lord, Nashtaha, lost, Param Tapa, O conqueror of the foe. Arjuna, this yoga was thus received in disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it through that process. But after a prolonged lapse of time, it almost become lost to the world. एवं परंपरा प्राप्तमिमं राजर्षयो विदु सकालिनेह महता योगो नष्टा परम तप. Evam thus parampara by disciplic succession, praptam received imam these science, Raja Vishaya, the saintly kings, Viduhu understood, Saha that knowledge, Kalena in the course of time, here in this world, Mahata great, Yoga the science of one's relationship with the Supreme, Nashtaha scattered, Param Tapa, O Arjuna, subduer of the enemies. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. It is currently stated that Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Suddenly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demoniac persons who would dissipate its value for no other benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As long as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to reestablish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord Himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore He declared that the purpose of the Gita appears to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also, there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in Calcutta, and there are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of God in Krishna. although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English as it is received by the Parampara, its succession system, an attempt is made herein to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity, but it is accepted by our teams, by our critics of philosophical speculations. It is simply a waste of time. So, Bhagavad Gita, this session is going on, and very nice. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So, Nangman Prabhu, please do 2 minute kirtan, Mahamantra kirtan, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Ram Prabhu. So, we'll stop here actually, verse number 2. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarashni vidu. Sakal niyamata yoga nashta parantapa. Evam, in this way, parampara, by disciplic succession, praptam, received, imam, this, Raja Rishaya, the saintly kings, Viduhu understood, saw that Kalena by time, Iha in this world, Mahata by the great influence, Yoga, the process for connecting with the Supreme Lord, Nashtaha lost, Paramtapa, O conqueror of the foe. For Arjuna, this yoga was thus received in disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it through that purpose, through that process. But after a prolonged lapse of time, it almost became lost to the world. So, Nishagaridi, please note this verse number 4.2. 4.2. We'll stop here and we'll now continue with the Bhagavatam class because Bhagavatam is also very wonderful book, and there was some request by some devotees. Shripa Dandi Maharaj also said, okay, I will also sometime discuss Bhagavatam. So, Bhagavatam is the Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udire nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiki tadarjastamo bhava kyamalo bhadeshe चेतयेतैरना विद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति. So we are discussing Bhagavatam. श्रीमद् भागवत में संबंध अभिधेय और प्रयोजन तत्व. So Bhagavatam talks about relationship and what is the means of attaining the goal and what is the goal itself. So वेद शास्त्र में जिस संबंध अभिधेय तथा प्रयोजन की बात कही गई है, वही संबंध भागवत के प्रथम श्लोक जन्मादस्य में अभिधेय धर्म प्रोजित कैतव में तथा प्रयोजन निगम कल्पतरुतम फलम नामक श्लोकों में सूत्राकार में निर्णित हुआ है. So what is the relationship? The relationship is explained in Janmadasyata. Janmadasyata means the source of everything is Krishna. So in that sense, Krishna is our eternal Father, Janmadasyata. Or everything emanates from him, he is the source of everything. But what is the means of attaining perfection? Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam sata. Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatravam milanam. Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kriti Kimba Pareshwara Satya Yadrudate Prithvi Sushvitarshana. And prayojan is explained in the verse Nikama Kalpatarva Karitam Phalam. So, Iti Chamsha Kala Pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. 1.3.28. श्री राम, श्री नरसिंह, वराह आदि भगवान श्री कृष्ण के अवतार तथा उनके अंश करा दिए हैं, किंतु श्री कृष्ण स्वयं भगवान है। इसी तत्व को निरूपित करना ही भागवत का प्रतिपाद्य विषय। So there are different incarnations. Sri Ram, Sri Nrsimhadev, Varaha, they're all incarnations of Sri Krishna. They are either portions, plenary portions, or plenary portions of plenary portions. But know that Sri Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead. So to narrate this truth is the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Krishna, Akhilar Samrata Murti. Shri Krishna is the embodiment of all the mellows. Unka kirtani samyak kirtan hai. So if we see that Krishna's glorification is the complete glorification. अखिल सामृत मूर्ति श्री कृष्ण की लीला के श्रवण द्वारा ही सम्यक कीर्तन होगा, अन्य अन्य अवतारों की कथा सुनने से नहीं. So Sri Krishna, who is the embodiment of all the mellows, when we hear his pastimes, then that is complete kirtan. But if we listen to the pastimes of other incarnations, that is not complete kirtan or shravan. So श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण के कीर्तन की अपेक्षा श्री सीताराम के कीर्तन ही सब प्रकार से जययुक्त है. If you see the kirtan of Shri Lakshmi Narayan and if you see the kirtan of Sitaram, then the Sitaram's kirtan is so much superior to the kirtan of Shri Lakshmi Narayan. Like for example, some person is doing kirtan. Shriman Narayana Narayana Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Shriman Narayana Narayana Narayan Padman Narayana Narayana Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Lakshmi Narayan Shriman Narayana Narayana Narayan Shriman Narayana Narayana Narayan. This is a very high class kirtan, but even superior than that is Sitaram Kirtan. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Jaya Jaya Dasharath Raja Dulare Raja Ram Raja Ram. Sitaram Hanuman, Sitaram Hanuman, Sitaram Hanuman, Sitaram Hanuman, Sita Sita Sitaram, Sita Sita Sitaram, Sitaram 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 कहिए, चाहे विधि राखे राम ताहे विधि रहिए. Oh, this is even superior than Lakshmi Narayan Kirtan. But किंतु श्री कृष्ण कीर्तन होने से ही पूर्णतमता होती है, सब प्रकार के अभाव ही दूर हो जाते हैं. So when we do Sri Krishna Kirtan, the names of Sri Krishna, then all the abhav means anything that is lacking will be eradicated. Means all the abhav will go away. भागवत के दशम स्कंद में कृष्ण कीर्तन पूर्ण मात्रा में. So Srimad Bhagavatam 10 canto glorifies the pastimes of Sri Krishna. जयति जननी वासो देवकी जन्मवादो यदवर परिषद स्वर्दोर्विनश्यन्न धर्मम तिलकर भजनग्न सुस्मिक श्रीमुखेन व्रजपुरवनितानां वर्धयन् कामदेवम्. Like such wonderful kirtan of Sri Krishna's pastimes, or how Krishna showed mercy to Putana, or Krishna's wonderful beauty. बर्हा पीडम नटवर वपु कर्णयो कर्णिकारम बिभ्रद्वासा कनक कपिशम वैजयंतीं शमालाम रंध्रान वेणोरधर सुदया पूरयन् गोप वृंदैः वृंदारण्यं सबदरवणं प्राविशद् गीत कीर्ति. This is a very high class kirtan. how the gopis are singing the glories of Sri Krishna's beauty. It's a very excellent kirtan. Or Brahmaji's kirtan. It is also high class. नौमिड्यते अपर्वपुषे तडिदम्बराय गञ्जापतं सपरिविच्छल सन्मुखाय वन्यस्त्रजे कवलवेत्र विषाण वेणु लक्ष्मश्रिये मृदुपदे पशुमांगजाय. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Krishna. यद्यपि भगवत अवतारों में तारतम्य का निर्देश करने के लिए ही अन्य अन्य स्कंदों में अन्य अन्य अवतारों की कथा का परिवेशन किया गया है, तथापि भागवत में श्री कृष्ण कथा ही पूर्ण रूप से वर्णन किया गया है. So people should understand that which pastimes are of what level. The pastimes of Varahadev or Kurmadev are not on the same level as the pastimes of Sri Ramchandra. And the pastimes of Ramchandra are not on the same level as pastimes of Krishna Chandra. And pastimes of Dwarka are not on the same level as Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So there is, all the pastimes are described, but just to indicate the gradation. We have to understand that the pastimes of Rajandananda and Shyamsundar Krishna, which are described in the 10th canto, are the greatest. So Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Krishna's pastimes in complete manner. रस विचार से श्री कृष्ण का सर्वोत्कर्ष दिखलाया गया है. So as per the consideration of the mellows, the Krishna's greatness has been showed. भागवत में कृष्ण भक्ति रस वर्णित है तथा रूपानुगत्य से ही वह प्राप्त होता है. श्रीमद् भागवतम describes the mellow of Sri Krishna's emotional service. And if you follow in the footsteps of Sri Rupa Goswami, then you will be able to understand that mellow of Krishna, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavat में आलोचित विषय. Now, what is the topic that is discussed in Bhagavatam? What is really that is discussed in Bhagavatam? Now, here it is told that Mahabharata में मथुरेश कृष्ण और द्वारकेश कृष्ण की कथा है. So Mahabharata describes Krishna's role as the ruler of Mathura or as the ruler of Dwarka, the Lord of Dwarka, Lord of Mathura. However, Mahabharata doesn't describe Sri Krishna's pastimes as Vrajananda Shyam Sundar Krishna, as a son of Nanda Maharaj. So in order to study the pastimes of Krishna as Vrajananda Shyam Sundar Krishna, you'll have to study Srimad Bhagavatam, not Mahabharata. जो इस जगत में रहना चाहते हो, इसके बाहर नहीं जाना चाहते, वे महाभारत पढ़े. Now there are some people, right? There are some people who just want to stay in this material world. They are not at all interested in going to the spiritual world. They say, this material world is sufficient for us. We want to happily live in this material world forever. We want to take birth again and again, and we want to stay in this material world. But we want to be happy in this material world. We don't want to be distressed. All right. For such people, Mahabharata has been written. But किंतु जन्म जन्मांतर का नित्य काल का कृत्य ही जिनकी आलोचना का विषय है, भागवत का स्मरण कर. But who should relish Bhagavatam? Those who want to discuss eternal pastimes of Sri Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, they should study Bhagavad. Otherwise, you can study Mahabharata. श्रीमद् भागवत के 12 स्कंदों को भगवान के 12 अंगों के रूप में वर्णन किया गया है. So there are 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. All the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are comparable to the 12 different limbs of Sri Krishna. But this is not like the universal form of Krishna. This is not like an imaginary universal form of Krishna. This is a reality that actually भगवान अपने वास्तविक श्री विग्रह के रूप में इस श्रीमद् भागवत में अवस्थित है. So although Sri Krishna returned to Golok Vrindavan, but he eternally stays in the श्रीमद् भागवत. श्रीमद् भागवत की विशेष आलोचना करने पर इसे समझा जा सकता है. So when we discussed the pastimes of Bhagavatam in detail, then we can understand how that different cantos are different limbs of Sri Krishna. Now, what does Bhagavatam discuss? Bhagavatam discuss Sri Krishna's pastime. It also discusses Rohinandan Ram, means the son of Rohini Mata, Balram. It also discusses the pastimes of the son of Dashrath, Shri Ramchandra. It also discusses Parshuram's pastime. Parshuram is the son of Rabadakni and Renuka. He was born in Brahmin family, but acted like a Kshatriya. Vamandev, son of Aditi and Kashyap. Varahadev, pastimes of Varahadev, who manifested from the nostril of Brahma. Nrsingadev's pastimes, Lakshminarayan pastimes, the Brahma and Paramatma, how they are all pervaded. This has been explained in Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam also talks about Bhagavan and the potency of Bhagavan and the potency of Bhagavan's incarnations. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam wants to eradicate the disease of impersonalism. What is the disease of impersonalism? That people think the God has no form. It's just bright light. Srimad Bhagavatam explains the nature of Bhagavan's pastimes. That Bhagavan has a transcendental form, transcendental pastimes. Bhagavan is not devoid of form or qualities. He is indeed endowed with spiritual form and spiritual qualities. यद्यपि भागवत श्री कृष्ण लीला का वर्णन करती है, श्री कृष्ण की पूर्वार्ध संभोग में लीला की कथा ही बोलती है, परंतु विप्रलंबमयी लीला जिसमें संभोग की पुष्टि होती है, उस परम प्रयोजनीय विषय को श्री गौर सुंदर ने ही भागवत में प्रदर्शित किया है. अतएव श्री गौर सुंदर द्वारा प्रचारित जो भागवत की विचार प्रणाली है, वही हमारे आलोचना का विषय है. Actually, Bhagavatam discusses Krishna's pastimes. Okay, Bhagavatam also talks about Krishna's pastimes of meeting with the gopis. But there is also some pastimes which nourish the mood of separation. Because if the mood of separation comes, then the meeting becomes more relishable. The bliss of meeting is strengthened. So Gaura Sundar actually showed that in Bhagavatam there is also the mood of separation, which nourishes the mood of meeting. So therefore, what we should follow? We should follow the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam as preached by Sri Gaura Sundar. Bhagavatam has many teachings, but whatever is essential for our progress, that book of Gayatri Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. तो कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि भागवत में दुर्नैतिक कथाओं से पूर्ण कृष्ण लीला की आलोचना की गई है, इसलिए भागवत की विचार प्रणाली व्यभिचार की पुष्टि करने वाली. इससे अच्छा तो नेपोलियन की वीरता की कथा सुनना है. किंतु हमारा कहना है कि भागवत एलेगोरी, रूपक या हिस्ट्री, इतिहास नहीं है. इसमें क्या क्या समता और विषमता है, उसे समझने के लिए साधु के मुख से श्रवण करना चाहिए. Some people say that Bhagavatam is full of pastimes of loose character, these immoral activities. So they criticize the pastimes of Sri Krishna, considering the Bhagavatam is full of durnetik kathas, immoral pastimes. So therefore they say that the thoughts of Bhagavatam preaches Vyavichar. Vyavichar means having paramour relationships and all that, having loose character. इससे अच्छा तो नेपोलियन की वीरता की कथा सुनना है. So better than reading Bhagavatam or hearing Bhagavatam, they say that we should hear about the warrior qualities of Napoleon. But we say that Bhagavat रूपक या history नहीं है. Bhagavatam is not history and Bhagavatam is also not an allegory. इसमें क्या क्या समता और विषमता है, उसे समझने के लिए साधु के मुख से श्रवण करना होगा. So what is the similarity and what is the differences? You want to understand this, then we'll have to hear it from the lips of a sadhu. श्रीमद् भागवत में श्री राधा नाम. पश्चिम भारत के भाग्यहीन लोग भागवत के विषय में अनेक प्रश्न करते हैं. So there are people in the Western India, they are very unfortunate. They ask many questions about Srimad Bhagavatam. मथुरा के एक पंडित ने मुझे प्रश्न किया कि भागवत में जब राधा का नाम ही नहीं है तब श्री गौर सुंदर को यह नाम कहाँ से मिला? पंडित ही asked Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada that there is no mention of the name of Radha in Srimad Bhagavatam. So where did this Gaur Sundar got this name from? किंतु हमारा कहना है कि भागवत में वह नाम किसके लिए रहेगा? हमारे जैसे निर्दोष व्यक्ति जो भागवत को देख ही नहीं पा रहे हैं कहते हैं कि उसमें राधा का नाम नहीं है. श्रीमद् भागवत में राधा नाम मुझसे प्रश्न किया था कि भागवत से जब राधा का नाम नहीं है तो श्री गौर सुंदर को यह नाम कहाँ से मिला? तो हमारा कहना है कि भागवत में वह नाम किसके लिए रहेगा? हमारे जैसे निर्दोष व्यक्ति जो भागवत को देख ही नहीं पा रहे हैं कहते हैं कि उसमें राधा का नाम नहीं है. हमारा कहना है कि भागवत को देख पाने से उसमें केवल श्री राधा नहीं बल्कि ललिता विशाखा रूपमंजरी चंद्रावली आदि का भी नाम दे देता है. Some people say that the name of Radharani is not there in Srimad Bhagavatam. But Srila Gurudev is telling that in Bhagavatam there is not only the name of Radha, but there is also the name of Lalita, Vishaka, Rupmani, Chandravali. All their names are there in quoted form in Bhagavatam, not openly. जिसमें योग्यता होगी मैं प्रयत्न कर ये सब कुछ देख पाएंगे. Those who are qualified, they search deeply, then they'll find that the names of not only Radha but many gopis are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, but in a hidden fashion. कोई इस भ्रम में न रहे कि भागवत में राधा जी का नाम नहीं है. केवल नाम ही नहीं बल्कि भागवत में उनके रूप गुण आदि अनेक विचार. Bhagavatam, the name of Radha is not there. Srila Gurudev is saying that no, in Bhagavatam not only the name but also not only that name of Radha is not mentioned in Bhagavatam, but apart from mentioning the name of Radha in Bhagavatam, her qualities and her form is also discovered in Bhagavatam. So openly the name of Radha is not mentioned in Bhagavatam, but there is Indriya here means Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi. तो कोई इस भ्रम में न रहे कि भागवत में राधा जी का नाम नहीं है. केवल नाम ही नहीं बल्कि भागवत में उनके रूप गुण आदि अनेक विचार. किंतु इसे जुलाब लेने के बाद भी ये औषधि खाने से काम करती है, नहीं तो वह अम्ल पित्त आदि में परिवर्तित हो जाती है. इसी प्रकार यदि अनर्थ अवस्था में एकदम से श्री राधा जी के विषय में जानना चाहेंगे तो कुछ भी खड़े नहीं है. Someone is given the medicine for diabetes. So one has to take medicine. Generally speaking, how much high quality medicine we take unless the stomach is clean. So how the stomach is clean, they induce diarrhea, liquid motion. And then when the stomach is cleansed by this process of giving medicine of diarrhea, then actual medicine will act when the stomach is clean. So otherwise, it will be converted to acidity. So therefore, when we are covered with so many unwanted habits, and all of a sudden we want to know about the topics of Radharani, then we will not be able to digest anything. So we will be given slowly. So we'll stop here today. Bhagavatam, actually, we are on page number 11. So slowly we will also do.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Marge. What page did we stop at today?
Today is Bhagavatam 11, page number 11. And
Bhagavatam.
page Bhagavatam is Srila Gurudev Hindi. It is not a translated to English, but it is in Hindi. Page number 11. So, yeah. So we'll stop here. Page number 11. And then I think tomorrow also class. So tomorrow
Yes.
we'll cover Madhurya Kadambini and then little bit
Yes.
Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam actually is a very powerful book. This one. Mr. Gurudev published it way back in 2009. So almost 12 years have passed. So this is important that we discuss Bhagavatam. And when I went for Shalya Prabhu's class, then I met some devotees and they said, we also want to hear Bhagavatam. I don't know whether I'm able to get across them. I'll request them to join. But even if they don't join, because Dandi Maharaj gave his blessing and he said, I will also, 1 or 2 days in a week, I will also try to explain Bhagavatam. And I sent him the soft copy also. So here, so much important points are made. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless evidence. Even if you are neutral, then you can see that the service which the power canvas which are done to Sri Krishna, that worship, that service is the topmost worship, even from neutral point of view. Not that you are Gaudiya Vaishnava also you can entertain that. Yesterday, I was seeing that there is one Pandit, Padre Devendra Tirtha Shastri. When he gives Bhagavatam, at least 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs persons attend Bhagavatam. And he was comparing the character of Radharani with Meera. So, and then he explained that, Radharani is incomparable. No one can be equal to Radha. But also Mirabai had many good qualities. So this is a lot of interest actually I generated, the character of Radharani. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless evidence. So therefore, Gurudev is saying that प्रमाण के नाम पर वेद और वेदानुग शास्त्र असंख्य बातें होंगी. The Vedas and the scriptures which are in pursuance of the Vedas, they talk innumerable topics. They discuss innumerable topics in the name of evidence. परंतु किंतु अपरा जड़ विद्या का अनुसरण करने वाला का विचार मनुष्य होने के कारण ग्रहणीय नहीं. There are persons who pursue the mundane knowledge, they pursue the material knowledge. So their thoughts are contaminated. So we cannot accept their thoughts. So here, Gurudev is telling that इस प्रकार के प्रमाण रेगिस्तान में प्यास से व्याकुल व्यक्ति के लिए दूर में स्थित सूर्य की किरणों से चमकने वाली रेती में जल के द्रव्यों mirage basically means if you are in the desert and all of a sudden you see water there. Actually, it is not water; it is actually the reflection of the sun rays in the bright sand. So the reflection of the sun rays in the bright sand creates an illusion of water. So therefore, those who follow the mundane knowledge, they are only going after mirage, not the real truth. अर्थ ही नित्य प्रार्थनीय, अनर्थ तात्कालिक है तथा अनेक प्रकार की भ्रांतियों को उत्पन्न करने वाले. We want Artha. Artha means the Paramartha, the ultimate goal of human life, Krishna prema. That is the ultimate goal of our life. Anarthas are there. We have many unwanted habits. But they are temporary. Slowly they will go away. अनेक प्रकार की भ्रांतियों को उत्पन्न करने वास्तव वस्तु ही अर्थ है. What is the Vastav Vastu, the real object? That is our goal. That is Krishna is our goal. He is the Vastav Vastu. So अतः वही ग्रहणीय. We have to accept the real object, and that is Krishna. अवास्तव वस्तु ग्रहणीय नहीं है. We should not enter after the illusion, the virtual reality, but actual reality is to ग्रहणीय. अनेक व्यक्तियों के विचार से निर्विशेषवादी सर्वश्रेष्ठ है, किंतु वह समल अर्थात शुद्ध है. Lot of people say that impersonal aspect of Godhead is the topmost aspect, but that particular thought is actually contaminated thought. It is impure thought. परंतु भागवत अमल प्रमाण, भागवतम is the spotless evidence. No evidence is equal to Srimad Bhagavatam. इस भागवत में अंतर्निहित वास्तविक स्वार्थपरता के कारण इसमें मुमुक्षा, भोग और मुमुक्षा, मोक्ष रूपी कहते नहीं. There are two types of cheating propensity. One is the hankering for sense object, that is called muksha, bhoga. And then another type of cheating propensity, that is called mumuksha, or hankering for liberation. So Bhagavatam doesn't teach about hankering for sense gratification, and it doesn't also teach about the desire for liberation. पांडित्य प्रतिभा द्वारा जो वेद की संहिता, ब्राह्मण, उपनिषद आदि की व्याख्या करते हैं, अपस्वार्थपरता में दीक्षित होने के कारण उनका प्रमाण कैसे मिलते हैं. A lot of people, they are very big scholars. They know Vedas, they know different hymns of the Vedas, they know the Upanishads, the different sections of the Vedas, and they are able to give very wonderful commentaries on the Vedas and the conclusion of the Vedas. But they are selfish persons because they are initiated in a mood of selfishness. So whatever evidence they give, that is full of cheating purposes. You cannot accept the teachings of the person who are full of mundane scholarship, but don't actually know the purport of the Vedas. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless evidence. And what is the aim and object of Srimad Bhagavatam? The aim and object of Srimad Bhagavatam is prem, the love of God. If you study Bhagavatam diligently, you will come to know that Jiva is the part and parcel of Krishna, and he is also the servitor, eternal servant of Krishna. He is not the object of service. The liberated Bhagavan, Bhagavan is always liberated, and liberated Bhagavan is our object of service. He is not our servant. So the liberated servitor and the liberated object of service, they have mutual love, and that love is unbreakable. If you want to understand the message of Bhagavatam, then you have to take shelter at the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, if you have not taken shelter at the lotus feet of bona fide spiritual master, then what to speak of us? Even Lord Brahma, Varun, Indra, they also cannot find the limit of the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the self-gratification manifests in three forms. The self-gratification manifests as mundane religiosity or elevation to the heavenly planets or economic development or as self-gratification. This is mundane self-gratification. Two levels of mundane self-gratification. So mukti, then the other result is liberation. What is the liberation? The liberation from the bondage. Means if you get freedom from the clutches of impatient mind, unsteady mind, restless mind, that is the result of renunciation. These are called mundane goals of life. But the prem is called the Panchapusha. Above the economic development, self-gratification, liberation, there is the fifth Purushartha, that is called prem. One is trying to acquire the love of God. That is Panchapushartha. Those who are busy in acquiring the four goals of human life, economic development, self-gratification, liberation, and religiosity, then they will not get any benefit by reading Bhagavad. If you are only hankering for wealth, then this will not work. Artha dharma kam moksha. Then recitation of Bhagavatam will not help. प्रेम अर्थात श्री कृष्ण की कृति का संग्रह करना ही जिनका प्रयोजन विषय है, वही भागवत को पढ़कर फल प्राप्त करते. There are some persons, very fortunate persons, they want to attain the happiness of Sri Krishna. They want to please Lord Sri Krishna. And their aim and object is that I want to receive the love and affection of Sri Krishna. And I have to view my love and affection to Sri Krishna. So only those who want to love Sri Krishna and want Krishna's love in return, only those persons are qualified to give Bhagavatam. So prem is the topmost object. Even if one knows this skill, one will have to study Bhagavatam. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Naam Kirtan, Bhagavata Shravan, Madhura Ras, Sri Murti Shraddhaya Seva. Sakala Sadhana Sarita, Panchanga, Krishna Prema Charma, 8 Pachara. So we will stop here actually. The page number 12. So we will stop here. And anyone has any comment or questions, please ask. Because the Mohini Ekadashi, the Mohini Ekadashi is very should fast like that. And day after tomorrow, you can break the fast at the sunrise. In fourth again, nothing English is coming, and that should be observed like Ekadashi. The only difference is that in Nothing English, we don't take anything to thus, if possible. And then next day after sunrise, we break the fast. We hold it there, so we can give for questions. So we will take knowledge in this temple. Hare Krishna. Om Sankalpa Paridarshak Vipasana Vijay Pradhanam Bhavanayake Vaishnave Bho Namah. Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna Maharaj Rams. Thank you so much for
Krishna.
that. So in
Hare
Bhagavad Gita page, I can't really hear properly. Can you please tell me where you stopped at with Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita is, we are at 4, chapter 4, verse number 3. Chapter number 4, verse number 3. Sa evadyam mayate adya yoga prokta puratana bhakto se me sakha cheti rahasya me hetu uttamam. This very ancient science of relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. This is verse number 4.3. Krishna is speaking.
Okay.
That will carry on next time. All right.
Okay, and you said Bhagavatam is page 11.
Yeah, Bhagavatam is actually, yes, Bhagavatam is actually page number 12 actually.
11.
12,
12.
12, 12, 12.
Okay.
12, because I was discussing that page number 12. I would say,
Okay.
huh?
Okay.
So,
And tomorrow's Madhurya Kadambini, and we'll continue with Bhagavatam from page number 12.
12, yes. Madhurya Kadambini,
Okay.
and we
Yeah.
are concluding Madhurya Kadambini, and we'll continue with Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a very vast book. Bhagavatam is Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. I have some volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam and endless Bhagavatam, and there are many commentaries. I don't see even they are translated in the Hindi language. But Bhagavatam is, I see many big cantos. Like, for example, these are all what I see on the screen. These are all Vallabhacharya Subodhini Tika. Then his son Giridhar, he wrote Bala Prabodhini Tika. So like this. So there is some Sanskrit, many commentaries are not translated. But Bhagavatam gives very good idea about about the living entities, what is the goal of their life. So there so many commentaries are there on Srimad Bhagavatam, literally. But what we will be referring to is what Srila Gurudev has given. Because we don't know Sanskrit, I don't know Sanskrit, so I cannot translate that. So let's stick to the Hindi one of Srila Gurudev. We'll refer to that one. Sometimes we can refer to Srila Sai Maharaj Bhagavatam also. That you can keep on reading also side by side. But our main textbook will be the Srimad Bhagavatam of Srila Gurudev. So that this will make that our textbook. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Dandavat Maharaj. Thank you so much. I'm Prabhu. Jai Divani, please. Thank you.
जय जय हरे
श्री गुरु गौरंग गंधर्व का गिरिधारी राधा विनोद बिहारी जी की जय। ओम विष्णु पार स्तोत्र रसद श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत विष्णु डीटी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। ओम विष्णु पार स्तोत्र रसद श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत दंडी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट विष्णु पार स्तोत्र रसद श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट विष्णु पार स्तोत्र रसद श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट पर स्तोत्र शता श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट विष्णु पर स्तोत्र शता श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट विष्णु पर स्तोत्र शता श्री श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट परम भगवत प्रवारा श्री श्रील गौर किशोर दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट श्री श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौड़िया वेदांत आचार्य श्री शिला बलदेव विद्याभूषण प्रभु की जय। श्रीला विश्वनाथ चक्र ठाकुर की जय। श्रीला नरोत्तम श्रीनिवास रामन प्रभु राय की जय। श्रीला कृष्ण स्तवराज गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री रूप सनातन रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल दास रघुनाथ सत गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर रामानंद श्री गौर प्रसाद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री वैदिक दादर शिव सती गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्याम द्वीप मायापुर सीमंत द्वीप गोद्रमती मध्य द्वीप कोलाद्वीप ऋतुद्वीप जानु द्वीप मोदर ध्रुव द्वीप पद्मकार श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपाल गोवर्धन द्वादश वनत में कहा श्री ब्रजमंदा की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गंगा यमुना तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती वृंद देवी की श्री पूर्णमासी योग माई की जय। श्री गोपीश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन चक्र जीव की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल की जय। सर्व विनाशकारी श्री नरसिंह देव की जय। भक्त प्रवार श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की चार धाम की जय। की जय चार आचार्य की जय। अकर मतराज श्री चैतन्य मात की जय। श्री श्री के गौरिया मात ओता सक मात समूह की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। सामगात्र भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल।
जय हो हरे समस्त वैष्णव भक्तों की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Sripad Bhakti Vedanta Vishnu Daivata Mj ki jai. Vanshakha Patrivyasya Kripa Samibhi Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Vaishnavibhyo. Thank you so much, Mark, for all your time, and thank you for always coming on to class, and thank you, dear devotees, for joining. And we'll see you all tomorrow for Srimad Bhagavatam and Madhurya Kadamini. Thank you again, Marge, for your time and your effort. Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranams.
हरे कृष्ण की जय। समस्त वैष्णव की जय। हरे कृष्ण। राधे राधे।
धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्ण। राधे राधे।
हरि बोल हरि बोल।
हरे कृष्ण।